Hello and welcome to another episode of A Cup of Grace and Lori. I'm Grace.
And I'm Lori.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about being an introvert or introversion. And so I'm just going to kick right off with the definition. So there is a dictionary definition. It's a very short, not very nuanced definition, and it goes like this. So the definition of an introvert is a shy, reticent person.
Oh, okay.
Well, I started reading this very famous book. It's been around for around 10 years. It's by Susan Cain, and it is called Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. Now, Susan
I've heard
Cain,
of
she
that book.
also gave, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she gave a very famous TED Talk as well. It's called The Power of Introverts. It's an excellent TED Talk. She's not only an excellent writer, but she is an excellent speaker, and she
Mm-hmm.
identifies as an introvert.
Okay.
And her definition of introversion,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very interesting, and I think it might be maybe even more accurate.
Accurate. Okay.
So, Susan Cain's definition of introversion is, well, it's more about how you respond to external stimulation.
Right.
So, introverts, for example, I identify as an introvert, so I'm going to
Okay.
include myself in this
Okay.
category. So, introverts have a preference.
Mm-hmm.
Introverts have a preference for minimally stimulating situations and environments because we tend to feel energetically drained when we're in environments or situations that are, that we consider to be, there's just too much external stimuli, right?
Right. Okay.
So, for example, going to a crowded bar for an
Mm-hmm.
introvert even the thought of it is draining.
Okay.
For me, it is.
Okay.
Whereas for an extroverted person,
Mm-hmm.
going to a crowded bar, being surrounded by all these people, whether they're friends or strangers, they will feel energized. They
Mm-hmm.
will feel energized and invigorated being in that
Mm-hmm.
kind of environment.
Mm-hmm.
And Kane goes on to say that introverts feel most alive in quieter settings, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and in doing more quiet, subdued activities such
Okay.
as reading. So,
Okay.
you hear a lot of introverted people, they love reading, right? Not to say
Right.
that extroverted people do not, of course they do.
Right.
But this is how we kind of recharge ourselves.
Right.
So, to move on, introverts also. So, here are some strong tendencies of introverts. Introverts tend to enjoy quiet concentration,
Mm-hmm.
listen more than they talk,
Mm-hmm.
think before they speak, and be more cautious when it comes to taking perceived risks.
Okay.
Now, I just want to put out there a disclaimer for this entire discussion, and this is
Mm-hmm.
what Kane is careful to emphasize.
Mm-hmm.
Kane points out that there is no all purpose, all encompassing definition of introversion and extroversion.
Mm-hmm.
She goes on to say, we are all gloriously complex individuals,
Okay.
and that there are different kinds of introverts and extroverts. Introversion and extroversion interact with other personality traits and our personal histories, producing wildly different kinds of people. So we
Okay.
need to keep that in mind, right? Yes, we are indeed complex beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not black and white. Now also the famous psychologist Carl Jung, or Jung,
Mm-hmm.
Jung,
Mm-hmm.
he also says there is no such thing as a pure extrovert or pure introvert.
Okay.
Such a man would be in a lunatic asylum.
Mm-hmm.
So most of us, there is an introvert extrovert spectrum, right? And most of us
Okay.
fall somewhere along that spectrum,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, for example, I would say that I fall more along the introverted side of the spectrum, right? But there are such people who are equally introverted and extroverted, and
Mm.
they're called ambiverts.
Oh.
So, Lori, I know that you took a Myers-Briggs personality test, and the
Mm-hmm.
results came out indicating that you are equal parts introverted and
Mm-hmm.
extroverted. So
Mm-hmm.
50% introverted,
Yeah.
50% extroverted. That is rare. So
Hmm.
you're actually an ambivert.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so while there's no absolute all-encompassing definition of introversion and extroversion, Kane does say that there are some key points that current psychologists do tend to agree on.
Okay.
So I'll go through them. I wrote
Okay.
down three. So here
Okay.
are the three points. So introvert, number one, so introverts and extroverts, they differ in the level of external stimulation that they need in order to function well.
Okay.
So for example, many introverts, like I mentioned, love reading. It's a solitude and quiet activity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they prefer to have smaller and intimate gatherings with people that they already know, so with friends and family, right? Which I
Okay.
totally agree with.
Okay.
Whereas extroverts,
Mm-hmm.
they like to get out and meet new people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how they feel energized, right?
Okay.
Number two, the second point, introverts and extroverts tend to have different working styles. So, for example, extroverted people tend
Mm-hmm.
to tackle projects quickly. They're comfortable with multitasking and risk taking,
Mm-hmm.
and they enjoy the thrill of the chase
Mm-hmm.
for rewards like money and status.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas introverts, on the other hand, tend to work more slowly and deliberately and
Mm-hmm.
focus on one task at a time.
Mm.
Now, the third differing characteristics of these personality types, introverts and extroverts tend to have different or differing social styles. So extroverts tend to be the life of the party, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to be assertive, dominant, and in need of company. They tend to think out loud and to
Mm-hmm.
prefer talking over listening. Whereas introverts
Yeah.
tend to prefer socializing with close friends,
Mm-hmm.
intimate settings, right? Smaller
Mm-hmm.
settings.
Mm-hmm.
Introverts tend to listen more than they talk. They tend to think before they speak.
Mm-hmm.
And we often feel as though we express ourselves better through writing rather than through conversation.
Mm.
And we also abhor small talk, but prefer
Okay.
deep discussions.
Okay. I do prefer deep discussions myself.
Yes,
I have to admit I do prefer just conversations with substance, right?
exactly.
They don't have to be
Exactly.
super deep, but I do prefer conversations with substance.
So I'm just going to briefly return to the dictionary definition
Okay.
of introvert. Again, it means, according to the dictionary, it's a shy, reticent person. So
Mm.
oftentimes when we hear, the word introvert or someone being described as introverted, we also just kind of automatically latch on the term shy
Right.
next to that person.
Right.
But as Kane underscores, shyness and introversion are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you identify as a more introverted person, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're shy.
Okay.
So shyness, for example, what Kane says is that shyness is the fear of social disapproval and humiliation,
Okay.
while introversion is
Mm-hmm.
a preference,
Right.
right? Let's emphasize preference
Right.
for environments that are not overstimulating.
Right.
Shyness is inherently painful, whereas introversion is not.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I understand why sometimes, introversion and shyness there is an overlap, because
Right.
yes, for some people who do identify as more introverted do also,
Mm-hmm.
they are shy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there is sometimes that is true, but it's not all across the board.
I mean, can you have a shy extrovert though?
It's possible, right?
Yeah.
Because we're
Okay.
all complex beings.
Yeah.
So that's possible.
Hmm.
I think it's totally possible.
Okay.
Because I think shyness is more like it's kind of like a social anxiety thing, right?
Okay.
So I'm sure there are plenty of extroverted people
Yeah.
who have this kind of social anxiety within them, even though
Okay.
maybe it, yeah, like their inherent personality trait is more extroverted in nature, it doesn't mean that they can't also suffer from a social anxiety,
Right. Okay.
right?
Okay.
Okay. So if if anyone in the audience is curious to know whether he or she is an introvert or extrovert, Kane does provide an informal, non-scientific
Hmm.
quiz in her book. So all you have to do is answer true or false. It's a very simple quiz,
Hmm.
and I'm going to actually read through them because it's just
Okay.
16 questions, okay? And so
I'm gonna.
you don't
I'll
have to
take your
answer
test.
out loud if you don't want to, but
Okay. All right.
and I wrote directly in the book, but okay, so
So
I'm
there's
gonna
16 questions.
16, yes.
Okay.
And so obviously, like if depending on like if you have more
Yeah.
true answers as opposed to false, and that means you're more likely more introverted. But
Okay.
again, this is not a scientific
Right.
quiz, right? But you get a
Okay.
general idea.
Okay.
Okay, so number one, I prefer one-on-one conversations to group activities. True or
Well,
false?
I'm gonna, again, I'm in the middle there. Middle. Because I like both.
Okay, number two, I often prefer to express myself in writing. So if you really are honest with yourself and currently if you think about how you prefer to communicate with others, is it through writing or
Uh,
talking?
no, again, I'm gonna say C. I like both. I do like both. I don't just, I enjoy writing, obviously, but I do like to communicate verbally as well.
Okay.
Hmm.
Number three,
Okay.
I enjoy solitude. True or false? Yeah. I think also, when we come down to identifying ourselves as either introvert or extrovert, it's really important to find a balance of what's right for us. I mean,
Okay.
like we don't, even though introverts have a preference for solitude and
Hmm.
alone time and, doing quiet things, I think it's also important for us to get out and socialize, right? So, number four, I seem to care less than my peers about wealth, fame, and status. Okay. Number five, I dislike small talk, but I enjoy talking in depth about topics that matter to me. Number six, people tell me that I'm a good listener. Number seven, I'm not a big risk taker. Number eight, I enjoy working that allows me to dive in with few interruptions.
Yeah.
Number nine, I like to celebrate birthdays on a small scale with only one or two close friends or family members. Number 10, people describe me as soft spoken or mellow. 11, I
Hmm.
prefer not to show or discuss my work with others until it's finished. Number 12, I dislike conflict. True or false? Number 13, I do my best work on my own.
No, I
Number
wouldn't.
14,
Yeah.
okay, I tend to think before I speak. Number 15, I feel drained after being out and about, even if I've enjoyed myself. Oh, I'm sorry, there's 20 questions. Okay,
Oh,
here we
okay.
go. 16. I often let calls go through to voicemail. True or false?
Well, if I think it's like a spam call, yeah. If I think it's a spam call, I do.
Number
Uh,
17.
mhm.
If I had to choose, I'd prefer a weekend with absolutely nothing to do to one with too many things scheduled. Number 18, I don't enjoy multitasking. Okay,
But
number 19,
mhm.
I can concentrate easily. True or false?
Yeah, well, I think I would say true. Hmm.
Okay, and the last question,
Hmm.
in classroom situations, I prefer lectures to seminars. I think it might be accurate, the
Okay, it's pretty
personality test that you
accurate
took that
actually. It is
that you're an ambivert.
8 true, 7 false, and 4 down the middle. So yeah,
It's pretty accurate that
yeah, it
personality
is
test
pretty
that you took.
accurate actually. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
cool.
So yeah, like when I took the test, yeah, obviously like for me, I had a lot more truths
But
than
you had
false.
some
So I'm
false,
I'm
right?
I'm more,
You
yeah, but not a lot. I had four
okay?
falses.
Okay,
Okay. So I want to say, so this is another disclaimer that Kane provides.
right.
So regardless of whether your answers lean more towards one personality trait than the other, it doesn't mean that your behavior can be predictable across
Mm,
all situations or
okay.
circumstances, right?
Okay.
Again, it goes back to the fact that we are complex beings and
Right.
context matters,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I just want to say this was just a fun assessment test, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, just regardless of what type we are, I just think that just knowing what personality type you are, whether
Mm-hmm.
you're more introverted or extroverted, it's just another tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just another way for us to understand ourselves and others,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
There's
Grace,
no right, wrong, or better.
if you think about your friends, past and present, whatever, have they tended to be introverts, extroverts, or somewhere in the middle?
That's
Or have you
interesting.
thought,
I don't even know if I even thought about this.
okay.
That's a good question because again, now that I think about Susan Cain's definition of what introversion is, it's
Mm-hmm.
basically about energies, right? Like how we
Mm-hmm.
manage energies. It's more about, okay, in what situation do you feel drained and how do you recharge yourself,
Right.
right? So I recharge myself in solitude. That's what I like. And so that's really hard to tell. Like I've never asked my friends, "Oh, how do you like to recharge your batteries?"
Yeah.
Like when we went out dancing, for example, it's not like I asked them, "Oh, hey, we're in this dancing club. Like, do you feel recharged right now, or do you know what I mean?"
You didn't ask them that? No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
exactly.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. No,
How
I
about
mean,
you? Yeah.
that, yeah. I remember I had a group of friends that I hung out with several years ago, and I would say they were all extroverts pretty well, or if they weren't extroverts, they were leaning way in the extroverted on the
More so.
scale of
Okay.
the spectrum.
Okay. Mhm.
Then I've had one-on-one friendships where the friends are introverted.
Mhm.
So
Well, for you, yeah, because you are pretty even,
I'm down
right?
the middle. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
guess
you kind of have quote unquote the best of both worlds, and you are happy and feel
but
you regenerate in both those types of
right.
like
Although
in
I mean I
larger and smaller settings.
yeah, although I guess if I had to say, I would probably prefer someone that's more leaning introverted, someone who reads versus someone who doesn't read, you know, because I do read and I it's just I like to exchange ideas with other people who do read, right? And if that
Exactly.
means that they tend to be more introverted, um,
There's a higher likelihood, yeah,
right,
that yeah, like
right.
you might
So
have
then
that's
I
a
guess I would say that.
commonality there. Yeah. That's a
Yeah,
commonality there.
but or even people. There must be other people that are kind of in the
Ambiverts. Yeah.
middle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why they came up with the term. I guess there were enough people who did have those outcomes, like, 50% introverted and 50% extrovert, that
yeah.
they came up with the term ambivert.
I will give you an example. I was just away for a week with my family at a cottage, which was fun.
Mhm.
But it was quite busy. The first day, it was me, my sister, my brother-in-law, my mother, and then my nephew and his fiance. And they were there for 2 nights. So that was quite busy, fun, but
Mhm.
busy.
Mhm.
Then they left, and then my brother came up and he came up for 2 nights and then he left and then it kind of felt like oh phew. Like it just felt like oh I mean and don't get me wrong it was fun with everybody up there but then when they left we all I think we collectively felt like oh okay it's and I was still there with my sister brother-in-law and mother but in comparison having 6 or 7 people there versus 4 um
Mhm.
it felt like oh okay we can relax a bit you know
Uh-huh.
we can relax a bit
Mhm.
and I don't think anybody was really reading when the others were up but we each had books and we were you know after everybody left, we were able to read a bit and just take it
Mhm.
the pace a bit slower. And that
Mhm.
was nice. I have to admit, it was nice to have that time. So I don't know if that tells you anything, but I don't want to say that I didn't enjoy them having them there, because I did. It was fun having them there. It was fun having my brother there, and but then when they left, I have to admit that it was nice to have a bit slower pace,
Yes.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I mean, I understand that. Um, and I can't like I can't go out like, you know, 3 or 4 times 3 or 4 times a week. I can't do that. Like I can do, ideally would be like 2 times a week. And
Mhm.
I'm not talking about shopping, but I mean like going out maybe for dinner or to a blogger event or something like that. I
Mhm.
couldn't
A
do
more
those.
social event. Yeah.
Yeah, a social event. I couldn't do that 4 times a week. I'd be like, no, no, I need balance for me.
Exactly. I think that's the
Yeah,
key
I need
there.
balance. But it isn't that it exhausts me. I do love going out, and the things that I choose to go to, I love, and I love the energy. I
Mhm.
come back and I'm like, oh, that was fun, right?
Okay, see? Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I enjoy that. But on the other hand, I don't want to do that 4 times a week, right? I
Yeah.
need a
Mhm.
balance.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, well, just like with me, like even though I identify as an introverted person, it doesn't mean that I don't like socializing, but for me there is a limit.
Oh,
Do you know
well,
what I
me
mean?
too. There is a
It's
limit for
like,
me too.
yeah. So, for example, my mom is extroverted.
Really.
She loves talking, she loves people. And can you imagine, pairing us? Like this is hilarious. God has a sense of humor. But
Yeah.
I know it happened for a reason.
Yeah.
She loves people. It doesn't matter if she knows them or not, she loves talking to them.
Wow.
Okay? Yeah, like spending a few hours with her, it's nice, but then after a time, it's like when we're like in the car, for example,
Yeah.
like I need silence.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Whereas like she wants to continue talking.
Oh, okay.
And and this is part of, me trying to me learning boundaries. I'm also trying to learn boundaries with my mom, right? And like,
Right.
just
Okay.
learning to guard my energy is like I have to speak up. It's like, but I don't know, like I have to learn to communicate it in a
Nice way.
non-offensive way.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, can we just be quiet for a time?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like
Can you tell her that
it
you
doesn't mean
get,
I don't love you,
yeah.
but it's like I need silence now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the maybe the challenges that more introverted people may face, like when
Sure.
they are with more extroverted people, and
Mm-hmm.
they feel so energized when they're around people.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I do feel that way, but there is a
Mm-hmm.
limit. There is a time
Right.
limit for me. And also,
Okay.
I think there's an example that Susan Cain provides, like going to parties, for example. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that we don't enjoy going to parties,
Okay.
but maybe like after a time, yeah, we want to leave and snuggle up, on the couch in our PJs with a good book,
Okay. Okay.
right? It's not
Yeah.
so black and white. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Well, let us know in the comments section. Do you figure you're an introvert, extrovert, or are you like me, right down the middle?
Or maybe you don't
Um,
care because this is just a label, right? It's just a
yeah,
label.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you have any issues, or what do you run into in your daily life if you're an introvert? Do you have, we didn't even venture onto into the topic of social media, because I think that would be that's a whole other discussion, isn't it?
Okay.
Social media and introversion, maybe.
Hmm. Okay.
In the meantime, thank you for joining us this week. I hope you have a great week, and we will be back next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.